Hello and welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. My name is Danny DeLillo. We're here at the South Park Center. I'm delighted to be joined with Isaac with his movie Ghost in the Blood. Let's take a look at the clip.
In the early 1500s, Spanish conqueror Juan Ponce de Leon discovered what would become known as the island of Puerto Rico. It was inhabited by a native tribe known as the Taínos. They had a thriving culture and became friends. But friendship turned into war.
Isaac, I'm very glad to have you here. Thank you for bringing your film to us. I'm still in this mystical place that you took us into, and I love this film because it's always great to see a film you feel like you've never seen this idea before. For those that haven't seen it, tell us the brief synopsis.
Thank you so much for having me, Danny. This is an incredible privilege and a wonderful feeling. Ghosts in the Blood is about a genetics professor who stumbles across a quantum connection with his ancestors. And, you know, the longer story there is that, you know, he's got some professional and very personal issues, some struggles, you know, conflicts. You know, sometimes we have problems in our lives. I mean, I've encountered this. I've seen others where you don't know how to fix them. They're problems that become like existential.
Yeah.
Like, how did I get here? What could I possibly do to fix this? And I think that, you know, the protagonist, you know, is developing the story in this wonderful organization called LA Skins Fest, and it centers on native storytelling. And my background being Puerto Rican, the native tribe that is associated with the Puerto Ricans and in the larger Caribbean diaspora is mainly the Taínos. And the Taínos is a tribe that nobody really talks about or heard of because they were essentially the first tribe to be wiped out at the beginning of the New World being discovered. And so it's a tribe that kind of exists in the peripheral of people. Like, people kind of get the image of Columbus coming and seeing natives. Well, those were Taínos. And they were wiped out within less than 20 years of interaction, and in a system that revolved around, you know, the fundamentals of building an empire. When you know your morality is, you know, less thought about because of the perspectives of that time. So I mean, it's hard to say what's good or bad, but the circumstances of people from those situations, descendants.
Yeah.
It, in my mind, you know, it creates these microaggressions in our present day, and all these different kind of issues where you're like, I don't know how to solve this. I feel it, but I don't know how to define it completely all the time, let alone actually make it better. And quantum and the imagination, I think, of society on the whole right now is in a place where we're thinking multiverses. We're thinking outside of the box. You mentioned mystical. You know, like there's solutions that are in our imagination. That may not necessarily be the norm or the mainstream, but I think we're reaching beyond the norm or the mainstream. Because we have to.
Well, even your film, I mean, you've taken us out the mainstream, and you know, you've mixed quantum physics with ancestry in this, you know, very, very important moment in time in history that, you know, we're only starting to see the hairlines are being spoken about. And it takes a filmmaker and a storyteller to show that to us. But the context in the way that you designed this film was so clever. It was, you know, it mixed with your imagination, as well as just learning about this particular history, and particularly people that haven't experienced this, or maybe a part of, you know, whether they're Puerto Rican or part of this particular tribe. Really very important to be able to see this history as well. He did it so well. And then of course, you have multiple roles. in front and behind. You did such a great job. Like, I mean, I was there with you, and it was a hard watch because, you know, there's a lot of things at stake in this film. You know, how was that experience taking upon those multiple roles, and did you always know you were going to do that going into it?
Thank you very much. You know, there's a lot of, I hate to use the word pride in it. And, you know, looking back on it now, there's a lot that I can say, you know, being here, this feels like it kind of worked, but I definitely was not wanting to do all those things.
You did it all well. You did a good job.
It was out of necessity because I had tried to bring other people into the fold, but we had so little money. And we had, you know, this idea that was, as you're talking about it, you know, like, we're trying to, and every movie tries to do this, I think, something nobody's ever seen before. And this was based off of dreams and a lot of imagination and the need to make something happen with very little. And, you know, like, you never have enough money in filmmaking, but we really did not have enough money. And like, there were people I couldn't afford to hire, or they wanted to be involved, but, you know, the money wasn't there for them because they had other opportunities, and there's, you know, you got to just let it be what it is. But there is something about being, I guess, like, everything goes through your network, your brain. And so there's certain moments that you don't have to try to explain to other people because you're you know. So there are definitely some cons, but there are some pros. And I feel like I stretched muscles and connected dots that I wouldn't have if I didn't need to. And I was thinking, because Clint Eastwood went to LACC, Morgan Freeman as well, you know. They and those are people that I admire and look up to, you know, especially Clint, he's writer, producer, director, actor, you know, and the way you see him do it at his age, you're like, man, you feel comfortable looking at him doing it. But it's hard to feel comfortable doing that, but it allows something to happen that is very singular.
Yeah.
And so I guess this project, you know, it just needed to be that. But when I was collaborating, like, I wish my partner Raphael was here. He was a significant contribution, and everybody on the team, all the way down to one of the gaffers was able to bring another camera for us on one of our early shooting days because they knew how difficult it was going to be. I mean, we didn't have a lot of people, but I called them my SEAL Team 6. You know, we were special forces. You know? So we felt that with each other. You know, we were like, listen, this is going to be a challenge, but everybody became very specialized in what they were asked to do, and were aware that being cognizant of each other and picking up the slack in certain moments was gonna make a big difference, because we had to get in and out of places very quickly. We had to be very collaborative, not just for creativity's sake, but for necessity, because there was problems coming up that people had to solve, you know, independently, but knowing what we were trying to do. Like, if a gaffer or if anybody who's doing electric or rigging, if anybody of them, they can be aware of what the dream is. You know, if everybody's talked in a way where, like, I know where this is going, so, like, they can anticipate, and they can create solutions for you that can allow the energy to flow, and that's what we had. Thank God.
You did so. I mean, firstly, obviously, credit to you, because obviously you got all these amazing people that want to work with you on this project and believe in it. And there's nothing better than having a team of people where you're all in it together. But I think you brought up something really important, but especially independent filmmaking, which is picking the slack up for each other. You know, like, you know, where, you know, someone needs support in a certain department or help, like, someone's there to, like, say, hey, I got you, you know, and how those cogs work, and then all of a sudden you're making it, you're moving along, and you're all helping and supporting each other, and that you need that team so badly. So I'm glad you found your SEAL 6 team. It's very good. I mean, you go into a project, you have an idea of what you want to make and what you want to create. It's always, you come out of it feeling like you've just gone through this sort of, like, big roller coaster ride, right? Was there anything that you were surprised in this particular project that you kind of learned from this, where you're like, oh my goodness, I knew this going in, but I wasn't expecting this? Good, bad, or the ugly, whatever you feel as a filmmaker.
You know, the really good stuff was in like one of the first days of filming when we were on this beach and everything went wrong, and seeing people hold it together, like really understanding what, like these are artists. Each person has like their own thing that brought them to this moment that makes them like, when things are awkward and weird, like you can feel like, oh, things are going wrong. But watching these other people hold it together when things were getting weird was something so reassuring, because it's outside of me. And like I said, I was wearing a lot of hats. I was feeling incredibly overwhelmed. Yeah. And it was everybody else, this kind of shared purpose, because it's like they showed up to make a movie. And, this is what we came here to do. Finding that shared purpose and staying committed to that feeling was, it's hard when we're trying to get the call sheets out.
I know. All those little admin things that like need to get out and changes and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, no, that stuff's really hard because, you've been dreaming and pushing through all the problems all day, and then you've got to do these minutiae of that people need in order for everything to work. But seeing everybody be so committed helped me be very committed, helped me hold my stuff together and not get too sloppy or too messy, because it can be really like hard to, because everybody needs the energy to be good enough to work. Yeah. Because making movies is a particular kind of business,
It's a strange one, isn't it?
Because it's so much emotions. Yeah. It's everything that we're really not supposed to do in public.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. I mean, speaking of emotions, this has obviously a very centered place in your heart in making this film, from your wonderful Puerto Rican background to the heritage, but also sharing this story to make people either have a relatability if they're from a similar background or experience, but also educating and entertaining as well. And so there's a lot of cross paths of imagination, understanding, learning, and it's sad to know that this was all kind of disappeared in like 20 years. It's disgusting and it's crazy and it's wild, but the story is not spoken about enough. And so, obviously coming from a personal place for you, but then sharing this to a wider audience, did you kind of have going in what you wanted your audience to sort of experience and take from your film? And maybe even along the journey, was there things that surprised you from what your audience took from the film?
Yeah, thank you. This story, it's very in vogue to talk about the native perspective. Yeah. But, as a Puerto Rican, like, and a lot of people, like, we're not just one thing. This story kind of explores the idea of trying to make that simplification, but there's native blood in there, there's European blood in there, there's a lot of different cultural elements that, again, like, it's hard to come up with solutions when things become too complicated sometimes. And this is a great story for me personally because a lot of it had to do with a dream. Yeah. Like a reoccurring dream that I had in my real life. And a lot of it was based off of these two warriors fighting and having that feeling kind of materialized and personified, because I think a lot of us have ideas or different parts of ourselves that are kind of fighting this eternal battle. Light and darkness, good and evil, these different ethnicities or cultures that we can have inside of us because of history. We're kind of forced sometimes to have simple answers, and simple is genius. But, there's sometimes, I think, so much more complexity, and finding ways to communicate that. I think
you did that.
I tried to.
You did. No, I'm still thinking about your film because I think that it's got context, it's got complexity, it's complex, and it's widens your imagination, but also it leaves you thinking because it's got so many dynamics and thoughts and subtexts and relations to many different communities in and around the world. It's incredible. Now, I love that I mean, this reoccurring dream, make sure you write all your dreams down, because that's a lot of movies you probably got there, Isaac. You know, yeah, always do you have a pen and paper by your bed? Is that how you write your dreams down? That's a great idea for a movie.
It's so weird. I have like all different kind of stacks of journals.
I love it.
Like those little moleskins and every other kind of spiral notebook.
We'll keep dreaming so we can keep making more movies, Isaac. But so I don't want to say, what's your next project or what's your next dream that we're working on? Like, what's the story?
Well, you know, there's always these different scripts and stories and ideas that I'm constantly pushing out of my brain. But, you know, getting the feature version of Ghosts in the Blood out has been a main priority, because, you know, this short version of it that's in NewFilmmakers LA now is our proof of concept.
Yep.
And it would not feel right to leave the chapters of this story that are kind of set up untold. But, you know, beyond that, I'm going to be doing a show for About Productions in March. I'm going to be playing in this group called Adobe Punk. I'm going to be doing a live show there. Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of projects on the horizon, because many of the festivals, including this one, have given us wonderful opportunities to meet new people.
You know, Isaac, you know, welcome to the NewFilmmakers LA family, and we're so excited. I can't wait for the feature version of this and all the other things that you're doing. But thank you for bringing light to this. Keep dreaming and keep showing us and making more movies. Basically, that's all we need to ask. But thank you. Welcome to the family, Isaac.
Thank you. This is wonderful.
Thank you.